It was supposed to be a quiet mission, just another hospital ship, traveling through the deep reaches of space, carrying wounded soldiers, refugees, and medical supplies to distant colonies. The hope of Earth was a symbol of peace, designed to heal and provide relief to those in need. But in the cold silence of space, nothing is ever as it seems. The crew of the Hope of Earth never saw it coming. The ship's captain, Commander Alex Hartley, stood on the bridge, gazing out into the endless darkness. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound, a comforting reminder that they were moving safely along their path. The mission was routine, and Hartley was eager to get back to Earth. The patients below were in good hands with the medical team, and the ship had been on its journey for days without incident. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by a harsh alarm. The ship's sensors had detected something. Something. Huge! "Captain, we're reading an unidentified fleet on approach," said Lieutenant Harper, her voice sharp with concern. "They're closing in fast." "Can you identify them?" Hartley asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "No, sir. The signature doesn't match anything in our database." Harper's voice faltered. "It's alien." A wave of panic spread across the bridge, but Hartley forced himself to stay focused. "How far out are they?" "3 minutes, Captain," she replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "Alert the crew," Hartley ordered. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Get everyone to their stations." The ship's alarms blared as the crew scrambled into action. It wasn't just an attack, it was an ambush. Hartley's mind raced as he processed the situation. Alien ships, with advanced weapons, were approaching fast. They weren't here for diplomacy. They were here to destroy. With only moments to react, the Hope of Earth veered to the left just as the first blast of energy ripped through the ship's shields. The force sent the ship tumbling to the side, shaking the crew inside. The ship's structure groaned under the pressure. "Shields at 40%?" shouted the ship's engineer, Marcus Chen. "We can't take another hit like that." Hartley clenched his jaw, trying to think of a plan. The Hope of Earth wasn't built for battle. It was a medical vessel, designed to save lives, not fight. "We need to fight back," Hartley said, his voice low. "Activate every weapon system we have. Target their lead ship." Harper quickly tapped in commands. "Weapons online. We're locked on." Another blast came, this time knocking out the ship's forward stabilizers. The ship lurched to the right, throwing crew members to the floor. Screams echoed down the halls. "We're losing control," cried Chen. Hartley's heart pounded. They were outmatched, outgunned. The aliens weren't just attacking, they were hunting them down. But then, just as things seemed hopeless, another signal came through. A new fleet, Earth's war fleet, was approaching. The Hope of Earth had sent a distress signal the moment the attack began, and Earth had responded. The ships in the distance looked like a wall of metal, prepared to fight to the last breath. The battle had just escalated. "Reinforcements are on the way," Harper said, her voice filled with relief. "They'll be here in 5 minutes. "That's too long," Hartley muttered. "We don't have 5 minutes." The alien fleet closed in, launching another barrage of energy blasts. This time, the Hope of Earth was ready. The crew fired back with everything they had, but their attacks barely scratched the surface of the alien ships. One of the alien ships broke off and moved toward the hospital ship. It was bigger than any of the others, darker, with strange markings on its hull. It was leading the charge, and Hartley knew that ship's commander would be the one to destroy them. He watched as the alien ship positioned itself to strike. The air was thick with tension. The next few moments could be their last. "Steady," Hartley said, his hands gripping the control panel. "Just hold on a little longer." Seconds passed, but it felt like hours. The alien ship fired, and the Hope of Earth shook violently. This time, the ship's hull started to crack, and the crew was thrown into chaos. But then, at the last possible moment, Earth's war fleet arrived. Massive warships, bristling with weapons, appeared from the darkness. They opened fire, and the alien ships were instantly engaged. "Fire all cannons," shouted Captain Reynolds of the war fleet. "Defend the Hope of Earth." Hartley watched, eyes wide as the battle raged around them. It was a fight like no other. Explosions rocked the space around them, and alien ships were torn apart one by one. But the war fleet wasn't just protecting the hope of Earth, they were sending a message. "Earth will never bow," Captain Reynolds' voice echoed over the comms. "And we will fight for our people." The alien fleet was slowly pushed back, retreating into the dark void of space. But even as the battle ended, the fear lingered. Why had they attacked? What was their real purpose? The hope of Earth had survived, but the war was far from over. This attack was just the beginning. Humanity had sent a powerful message: Earth would never surrender. But what would come next? The hope of Earth drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its bright white hull glistening under distant stars. It was a hospital ship, far from the front lines of war. The crew's mission was clear: to provide medical aid and relief to distant colonies struggling with the aftermath of conflict. Yet, as peaceful as the mission seemed, the cold silence of space always carried an unsettling feeling. Captain Mia Rhodes stood on the bridge, gazing at the quiet stars. Her crew had worked tirelessly to keep the ship running smoothly, and morale was high. But a growing sense of unease crept into her mind. Something didn't feel right. The tension in the air was palpable, even though there was no immediate threat. Then, without warning, the calm was shattered. "Captain, we've got an incoming signal." Lieutenant Jacobs called from his station. Mia's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" "It's strange." "An unidentified fleet approaching fast," Jacobs said, his voice filled with urgency. "They're not responding to our hails." "Are they hostile?" Mia asked, her mind racing. "I don't know, Captain, but their course is heading directly for us." Mia's chest tightened. She'd heard rumors of alien ships that had been spotted at the edges of Earth's territory, but no one had expected them to reach this far into peaceful space. The hope of Earth wasn't built for battle. It had medical facilities, supplies, and wounded soldiers aboard, but it had no weapons. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Mia ordered, her voice steady despite the rising panic. "Get everyone to their stations. Alert the medical team. This could get ugly." Within moments, the crew sprang into action. But the hope of Earth wasn't designed for a fight. The ship was fast, but it wasn't armed. Mia knew they had no real chance against an alien fleet, especially if these ships were as powerful as their approach suggested. "Captain, they're firing," Jacob shouted. A pulse of green light blasted across the empty space, striking the hope of Earth's shields with a violent shudder. The ship rocked. "Shields are holding for now," reported the engineer, Lieutenant Soto, but his voice trembled. "But they won't last long at this rate." "Can we fight back?" Mia asked, already knowing the answer. "No weapons on board," Jacobs replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Mia's mind raced. They couldn't just sit here and wait to be destroyed. She needed a plan, something, anything. The crew would never survive if they didn't act. "Can we send a distress signal?" Mia asked urgently. "Already sent, Captain." "But no response yet," Jacob said. "It'll be too late by the time Earth's fleet arrives." Just then, another powerful blast hit. The ship groaned, and the lights flickered. It was clear now, the alien fleet wasn't just here to scare them. They were attacking with full force. The shields flickered once more, and the ship was thrown off course, sending crew members tumbling to the ground. "We've lost navigation," Lieutenant Soto shouted. "We're drifting." Mia gritted her teeth. They were losing time and fast. Suddenly, a new voice crackled through the intercom. It wasn't from the bridge, and it wasn't a message from Earth. It was from the alien fleet. "Attention, human vessel," a cold voice echoed. "This is your final warning. Surrender, or we will destroy you." Mia's heart raced. Surrender? That wasn't an option. The hope of Earth was filled with innocent people, wounded soldiers, medical personnel, refugees who'd already been through hell. They couldn't just give up. "I won't surrender," Mia said firmly, even though her voice quivered. "We will fight." Before she could speak another word, the voice on the intercom continued. "You misunderstand, human. We don't seek destruction. But if you resist, you will bring the end to yourselves. Maya froze. They didn't want to destroy the ship? Why were they attacking then? Captain, Earth's fleet is responding. Jacobs cried out. They'll be here in minutes. Minutes. They didn't have minutes. The alien ships were closing in, and the hope of Earth's shields were on the verge of collapse. The alien ship that led the assault fired again, but this time, the beam was different. It didn't just blast through the ship's shields, it tore through the hull, ripping open a massive hole. The bridge shuddered, and the lights went out. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she struggled to stay upright. We're losing oxygen, Soto shouted. Mia's mind raced. This was it. The hope of Earth was on the brink of destruction. The alien ships would tear it apart in moments. She could hear the panic growing among the crew. But then something incredible happened. A massive fleet of Earth warships appeared on the sensors. Earth's fleet is here, Jacob shouted, relief flooding his voice. The battle shifted in an instant. The alien ships hesitated, as if uncertain. Mia didn't care about their hesitation. She had one goal now, survival. The warships opened fire, and the alien fleet retreated, vanishing back into the dark void of space. The hope of Earth was saved for now. But Mia knew one thing. They had come far too close to losing everything. Why had the aliens attacked? What did they want? Was it over, or was this just the beginning? As the warships began to escort the hope of Earth toward safety, Mia looked out into the stars. She could only hope that Earth's response would be enough, and that somehow they would find out the truth behind the mysterious attackers. The hope of Earth was a sanctuary in space, a hospital ship dedicated to healing the wounds of war. It had traveled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, bringing aid to colonies recovering from the endless battles that raged across the universe. But today, as Captain Nora Blake stood on the bridge, something felt different. There was an unusual tension in the air, an unsettling feeling that she couldn't shake. The ship was on its way back to Earth, its mission complete. It had been weeks since the last attack, and the crew was looking forward to a peaceful return. But as the stars streaked by, a warning flashed across the screens. Captain, we've detected an unknown fleet approaching, Lieutenant Martinez said, her voice tense. They're coming in fast. Nora's heart skipped a beat. How far out are they? 5 minutes, Captain. They're already in our trajectory. Nora clenched her fists. A hospital ship wasn't designed for battle. The hope of Earth carried wounded soldiers and medical personnel, not weapons. She had to think quickly. Get us into evasive maneuvers, Nora ordered, her voice calm but urgent. Prepare the crew. Lock down the medical bay. We need to protect the civilians. The ship lurched as the crew scrambled into action. There was no time to waste. The hope of Earth wasn't just a vessel, it was a symbol of peace. But today, it was a target. Minutes passed, and the alien fleet closed in. Nora watched the screens, her mind racing. Who were they? Why were they coming after them? Then, without warning, the alien ships opened fire. The energy blasts hit the ship's shields, causing the entire vessel to shudder. The lights flickered, and a warning alarm blared. Shields holding at 60% but weakening, shouted Ensign Riley from the engineering station. We can't take much more of this. Do we have any way to fight back? Nora asked, her voice tight. Negative, Riley replied. We're a hospital ship, Captain. We don't have weapons. Nora's mind raced as the ship was rocked again by another blast. There had to be something they could do. But as she glanced at the screen, something caught her eye, something familiar. Lieutenant Martinez, Nora said, her voice now full of concern. Zoom in on that lead ship. I've seen that design before. Martinez's fingers flew over the controls. That's impossible, she said, her voice shaking. It's one of the ships from the Gormak Alliance. They were once allies of Earth. We fought side by side in the war decades ago. Nora's heart sank. The Gormak Alliance, her people's allies, once a powerful force in the galaxy. But that was before the war ended, before the betrayal. The Alliance had vanished after the peace treaty, leaving Earth to wonder what had happened to them. "Captain," Martinez said, her eyes wide with disbelief, "they've come back. And they're attacking us." The room fell silent. The history of the Gormak Alliance was a shadow in the past, something Earth had moved on from. But now, it seemed the past had returned to haunt them. "Can we communicate with them?" Nora asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "We've tried," Martinez said. "They're not responding." The alien ships continued their assault. The hope of Earth was taking a beating. The ship was losing altitude, drifting dangerously close to the asteroid field ahead. "Prepare to brace for impact," Nora ordered. "We're going to get through this." "Stay focused, everyone." As the crew scrambled to stabilize the ship, another blast hit, this time tearing through the outer hull. The ship's alarms screamed as the crew was thrown from their stations. Nora gritted her teeth. They couldn't give up now. There was still hope. Then, just as the situation seemed impossible, another signal came through, this one from Earth's command fleet. "Captain Blake," the voice crackled over the comms. "This is Admiral Hart. We've received your distress signal. We're coming in hot. Hold on." A wave of relief swept over Nora. Earth was sending reinforcements. The warships would arrive soon. But time was running out. The hope of Earth's hull was too damaged, and the Gormak ships showed no signs of stopping. Then, as if fate was on their side, a new twist emerged. One of the Gormak ships broke away from the formation and signaled to the hope of Earth. "We're being hailed," Martinez said, her voice full of confusion. "It's coming from the lead ship." "Put it through," Nora ordered, her mind racing. The screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was an older Gormak officer, his face scarred, his eyes cold. But there was something else, something familiar. "Captain Blake," the officer said, his voice rough. "I am Commander Varuk. I see you remember the Gormak Alliance. But you have been misled. We never betrayed you. Our people were betrayed by your leaders." Nora's heart pounded. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. "You attacked Earth without warning. You left us to fight alone." "Earth's leaders made a choice, Captain," Varuk said, his eyes intense. "The Gormak were forced into hiding. Our allies turned against us. We've been watching you all this time. We didn't want this war." Nora's mind was spinning. Was it true? Had Earth's leaders really betrayed the Gormak? Before she could respond, the Earth fleet arrived. The massive warships moved into position, ready to engage. Commander Varuk's expression softened, but his voice was firm. "You must understand, Captain. This is not over. Earth has made enemies of those who once fought beside you. This is just the beginning." The hope of Earth was saved for now. The Gormak fleet retreated, but the shadow of the past hung heavy. Was Earth's past about to catch up with them? And could they survive the consequences? Nora stared into the stars, knowing that the peace they thought they had was fragile. The past was not done with them, and the future was uncertain. The stars stretched endlessly across the black canvas of space as the hope of Earth drifted silently through the galaxy. Its mission was simple: provide medical aid and supplies to distant colonies, far from the front lines of Earth's wars. But today, the ship felt anything but peaceful. The crew could sense it, the tension in the air, the uneasy silence. Something was coming, and they couldn't escape it. Captain Ella Monroe stood at the front of the bridge, watching the blinking lights of distant ships on the radar. They were just a few hours from their next stop, a colony on the edge of Earth's territory, a place known for its resource mines. But now, as the ship's communications officer, Lieutenant Martin, spoke, her instincts told her that this mission wasn't going to end quietly. "Captain," Martin's voice was tense, "we've detected an incoming fleet. They're coming in fast. It's a massive force." Ella felt her stomach drop. "How long until they reach us?" "5 minutes, Captain." "They're not responding to hails." Ella's heart raced. They weren't in a war zone. The hope of Earth was designed for one thing: healing, not fighting. She glanced at the crew. Each face was filled with the same fear she felt. "Can we identify them?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Martin shook his head. No clear signature, Captain. But their ships are huge. They could be anyone. The words echoed in the silence of the bridge. An unknown fleet coming in fast. A strange chill ran through Ella's spine. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Get the crew to their stations, she ordered, her mind racing. And get the medical team to shelter. We're not prepared for a fight. The ship shook slightly as it adjusted course, but Ella couldn't help but feel like it was already too late. This was no random encounter. The fleet wasn't here to trade, and they weren't here to negotiate. She could feel it in her bones. Minutes passed, each one stretching longer than the last. The hope of Earth moved through space, but the threat was closing in fast. Ella stood in front of the viewport, her hands gripping the edge, eyes fixed on the approaching danger. Then it came a flash of bright light as the first of the enemy ships entered their radar range. The crew gasped as the massive ships appeared on the monitors. They were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Sleek, dark, and covered in strange markings, the enemy vessels looked like war machines designed to cause destruction. Ella's mind raced. Who were they? What did they want? Suddenly, the communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through was deep, mechanical, and cold. Human vessel, this is the Blackened Legion. You are in our territory. Prepare to be destroyed. Ella froze. The Blackened Legion. She had heard whispers of them, but they were nothing but a legend, a name whispered in the shadows of space. A ruthless force that had swept through the outer colonies with no mercy. No one knew their origin, their motive, or their true strength. All they knew was one thing: they were unstoppable. They've been a ghost story for years, Lieutenant Martin muttered, his face pale. No one's ever faced them and lived to tell the tale. Ella's eyes narrowed. She wasn't about to go down without a fight. Get us to full speed, she commanded. Prepare to engage in evasive maneuvers. And get a distress signal to Earth. Now. The hope of Earth jolted as the engines powered up. But Ella knew it wouldn't be enough. The ship was fast, but it wasn't designed for combat. Their only hope was Earth's fleet, but they would be hours away, and the Blackened Legion wouldn't wait. The first shots came without warning. A barrage of deadly energy beams slammed into the hope of Earth's shields, causing the ship to lurch violently. Alarms blared as the ship's structural integrity was tested. The lights flickered, and the crew scrambled to maintain control. Shields at 40% and dropping. Shouted Ensign Patel from the engineering station. Return fire. Ella barked. Use everything we have. But the hope of Earth wasn't equipped for a real fight. The few defense cannons they had fired weakly, barely scratching the surface of the enemy ships. The Blackened Legion's massive ships absorbed the hits without even flinching. Captain, we can't win this, Martin said, his voice shaking. We need to retreat. Now. Retreat isn't an option, Ella replied, her voice cold. We have to hold them off until reinforcements arrive. We can't just give up. But as she said those words, the enemy fleet continued its assault. The ship shuddered under the repeated hits, and the damage was mounting quickly. The hull was weakening. Another blast hit the starboard side, sending sparks flying through the air. We're losing control, shouted Patel. Engines are failing. We can't keep the course steady. Ella's mind raced. Earth's fleet was still too far away, and there was no way they could escape without more damage. Their only option was to fight until help arrived, but time was running out. Every minute they wasted was another minute closer to their destruction. Then, just as it seemed like they might lose everything, a new signal came through this time, from Earth. Captain Monroe, the voice crackled over the comms. This is Admiral West. We've received your distress signal. We're en route. Hold tight. We'll be there in 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Ella whispered. 30 minutes was an eternity. The hope of Earth didn't have 30 minutes. The Blackened Legion ships launched another wave of fire, and this time it was too much. The ship's shields collapsed entirely, and the first breach occurred. We've lost the aft section, Patel yelled. hull integrity at critical levels. The ship was falling apart, but just as the Blackened Legion closed in for the kill, Earth's warships arrived. A massive fleet of heavy warships appeared from the darkness of space, their weapons firing immediately at the enemy. The tide of the battle shifted, but the damage was done. The hope of Earth had survived, barely. The crew was shaken, but they had lived to see another day. "Admiral West, thank you," Ella said, her voice thick with relief. "We can't afford to wait any longer. We need to know who these people are and why they attacked us." As the Blackened Legion retreated, Ella looked out at the wreckage around them. The battle was over for now, but the war was just beginning. The Titan Vanguard had always been the symbol of Earth's strength. A mighty warship, designed to defend humanity from the darkest corners of the galaxy. But even the Titan Vanguard had limits. And today, it was about to face a test unlike anything it had ever seen. Captain Jonathan Hayes stood on the command bridge, watching the incoming data with a sinking feeling in his chest. The screens flickered as a new fleet appeared on the radar, massive, menacing ships that seemed to stretch across the stars. Their dark silhouettes were like a storm on the horizon, and there was no escaping it. "Captain, we've identified the fleet," Lieutenant Zhang said, her voice tight. "It's the Varkan Empire. They've been quiet for years, but they're back." Hayes felt a chill run through him. The Varkan Empire, the name was enough to send a wave of fear across any soldier's heart. For years, they had been a constant threat, conquering planets with ruthless efficiency, leaving nothing behind but destruction. "How many ships?" Hayes asked, his voice steady despite the growing dread inside him. "At least 50, Captain, and they're closing in fast." Hayes clenched his fists. The Titan Vanguard was one of Earth's most powerful ships, but it wasn't enough to take on an entire empire. The rest of Earth's fleet was scattered across the galaxy, fighting smaller battles. They were outnumbered, and the Titan Vanguard was the last line of defense. "Shields up," Hayes ordered. "Prepare all weapons. We're not going down without a fight." The crews sprang into action, their movements practiced and quick. Hayes stood firm, staring out at the incoming enemy. They were here for one thing, Earth. And the Titan Vanguard was the last ship standing between them and total annihilation. Minutes felt like hours as the Varkan fleet closed in. The Titan Vanguard fired up its engines, pushing the massive warship into battle-ready position. The first barrage of enemy fire came without warning, a storm of energy blasts that lit up the darkness of space. The Titan Vanguard shuddered as its shields absorbed the impact, but Hayes knew it wouldn't last long. The Varkan ships were too powerful. "Shields at 60%, Lieutenant Zhang reported, her voice strained. "They're targeting the engines. Return fire," Hayes commanded. "Concentrate fire on their lead ship. If we can take it down, it might disrupt their formation." The Titan Vanguard's weapons fired with precision, sending laser blasts and missiles streaking through the void. The enemy ship's shields flickered but held. The Varkan ships were built to withstand firepower far beyond what the Titan Vanguard could throw at them. The battle raged on, and the crew worked tirelessly to defend their ship. But despite their best efforts, the Varkan fleet was pushing them back. One by one, the shields weakened, and the ship's hull began to take damage. "Captain, we've lost communication with the outer defense satellites," Zhang reported, her eyes wide with fear. "We're completely isolated." "Then we fight." "We're the last line of defense," Hayes said, his jaw set. "Make sure the medical bays are ready for casualties. And keep the crew focused." As the minutes passed, the situation grew more dire. The Titan Vanguard was surrounded, outgunned, and outmanned. The crew was working at their limits, but Hayes knew it wasn't enough. The Varkan Empire had come to claim Earth, and they weren't going to stop until they had it. Then, just as all hope seemed lost, a new signal came through. It was faint at first, barely a whisper in the vast emptiness of space. But it was a signal, and that meant help was on the way. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth's command," Lieutenant Zhang said, her voice full of disbelief. "They've sent reinforcements. They're en route." Hayes' heart skipped a beat. How long until they arrive? 20 minutes, Captain. But the Varkayan fleet won't wait that long. We'll have to hold them off, Hayes said grimly. Target their engines. We need to slow them down. The crew responded with renewed determination, firing relentlessly at the enemy ships. But despite their best efforts, the Varkayan fleet continued to press forward. The Titan Vanguard was buckling under the strain, its systems failing one by one. Shields at 10%, Captain, Zhang reported. We can't take much more of this. Hayes knew they were running out of time. The Varkayan fleet was closing in for the final strike, and Earth's reinforcements were still too far away to make a difference. It was up to them, just this one ship, this one last line of defense. With a deep breath, Hayes made a decision. Prepare the last resort protocol. We'll make them pay for every second they try to take Earth. The crew's eyes widened. They knew what it meant. The Titan Vanguard had a secret weapon, a last-ditch effort designed to take down any enemy ship in a single blow. But using it meant sacrificing the Titan Vanguard itself. There would be no coming back from this. Do it, Hayes said, his voice unwavering. We don't have a choice. The countdown began. The last resort protocol initiated. The engines roared to life, and the Titan Vanguard surged forward, charging at the heart of the Varkayan fleet. The enemy ships were caught off guard, unable to react in time. The weapon charged, a pulse of energy that could annihilate everything in its path. But just as the pulse reached its peak, a new presence entered the fray. A massive fleet of Earth's reinforcements arrived, engaging the Varkan Empire with all their might. The Titan Vanguard was saved, its sacrifice averted by the arrival of Earth's last hope. The battle wasn't over, but for the Titan Vanguard and its crew, it had been a moment of glory. They had held the line, and the war for Earth's survival had just begun.